Revenge films.
My mom passed away when I was young. Since then, my dad raised me up himself as a single father. But I think he was desperate to not make me feel alone as a child without a mother. At the time, he was working at a trading company with repeated business trips. During class observation day in elementary, I wanted Dad to see my school life, so I used to ask him to come and watch me, but he wasn't able to because he was busy with work. When I became a 5th grader, I started to understand Dad's work circumstances, so I didn't tell him about the class observation days and other class meetings. He always came home late, even during days without business trips. But every year during my birthday, he always bought a huge cake and a huge stuffed toy and came home early. Birthday parties with only the two of us. Very frugal, but those moments are irreplaceable to me. I always get excited when my birthday is nearing, and I used to count down until the special day. Then, when I was in 6th grade, out of nowhere, my dad said,
"From now on, this person will be your mom."
And brought home a woman. I'll be in middle school next year. I thought that Dad decided to remarry because he couldn't bear everything on his own. At first, she was a kind stepmom, but when Dad was not around, she started going out and almost always wasn't around. She didn't prepare food for me, or even bought groceries, so I ate instant food to stave off hunger. Then, stepmom arrived home a day before Dad arrived and told me,
"If you tell your dad that I went out, I'm going to punish you. Understood?"
Actually, I once told my dad about my stepmom not coming home for a day. At the time, my stepmom said,
"My relative died, and I was helping with the funeral service, so I got home late."
After that, my dad had to go on another business trip, and my stepmom hit me and gave me bruises.
Don't you ever tell your dad again about me going out. If you do it again, brace yourself.
As a child, I didn't understand why I wasn't allowed to tell Dad about it, but I was so scared of my stepmom that I had to say yes. A month has passed since that incident then. One day, I got sick while in school, so I went home early, but when I arrived, I heard weird noises. So I went to where the noise was coming from and arrived at the bathroom. I heard my stepmom's voice and a male voice. She was making a weird noise, and as a 6th grader, I didn't know what that meant. I thought she was being beaten and was crying for help, so I opened the bathroom door. My stepmom wasn't being beaten at all, but was naked with another man. Then, with a stern look on her face, she punched and pushed me away. My head was hit hard and I lost consciousness. I was in the hospital when I woke up. My head hurt. I reached my hand out to touch it and realized that it was bandaged. Beside me were my dad and stepmom with worried looks on their faces.
"Mary, I'm so glad you woke up. I heard a scream, and when I went to the bathroom, your head was bleeding and you were unconscious. You scared the hell out of me. It seemed like you slipped on soap and fell."
Really? But I'm glad that you're okay. When I got a call from your stepmother, I thought I would have a heart attack. I'm glad that she found you in time, but if she didn't, it would have been very dangerous. I'm so glad your stepmother was there.
My dad looked relieved, and my stepmom was glaring at me. "I'm sorry I scared you, Dad. I slipped when I was washing my feet. I really am clumsy." Then, Dad didn't come home from a business trip on my birthday that year. Since my stepmom wasn't home too, I ate instant food alone and slept while watching TV. The next day, stepmom came home and told me to tell Dad that she celebrated my birthday with me. 3 days after my birthday, Dad came home with a huge stuffed toy. I told him what she told me. My dad didn't know what actually happened, so he happily asked me.
I'm glad your stepmom was here this year. How was the girl's only birthday party?
He didn't bring any cake. It seemed like he already gave the cake to her, so he thought she and I ate it together. But she bought the cake somewhere, so I didn't even see it. Several days later, my dad became busier with business trips and came home late. So I didn't tell him about the class observation day and tossed it in the trash. I really didn't want stepmom to come instead, so I never told anyone about the meeting. We were told to write about our parents and read it in front of the class. So I did the best I could. So I wrote what I wanted to say. I wrote about my mom who passed away when I was young, about my dad who always came home late, about how my dad was tired during days off, so he didn't travel far, about how he couldn't attend class observation day because of work. But he would buy a huge cake and stuffed toy for my birthday, and how I love him for that. I didn't write about my stepmom. On class observation day, Dad went to work and I went to school. It was supposed to be a normal day. I thought there was no meaning to reading my essay aloud since my dad didn't come. I felt lonelier while reading my essay. Then, the class ended and everyone else went home with their parents. I felt like crying since I was by myself. When I stepped out of the gate, my dad was waiting for me. My mind went blank.
I heard your essay. I'm sorry I always made you feel lonely. Could it be that you and your stepmom are not getting along well?
I couldn't hold it in anymore, so I cried. Then told Dad about everything. After that, Dad hugged me. My dad reported my stepmom to the police. And my stepmom was brought to the police station on the same day. Then, I was brought to the hospital to be checked and submitted to the police. I told the police everything I could remember. During the trial, stepmom told the judge that my dad made me feel sad because he was working too much. Oh, nonsense! But it was revealed that she went to host clubs before she met Dad. Even after marrying Dad, she spent Dad's savings at the host club. She couldn't defend herself, so she was sentenced to prison. Of course, Dad divorced her. 2 months since my birthday, Dad and I celebrated my birthday. Dad's home cooking together. A big cake was so delicious that I almost forgot about what happened. It was a very happy day. Even after that, Dad continued to buy a big cake and a huge stuffed toy on my birthday. Years passed and I got married. As for Dad's speech, he took my essay out of his pocket. It seems like he has read it thousands of times since it was taped all over. At first, I was surprised that he kept it. But watching him read my essay with tears in his eyes made me cry. That piece of paper meant a lot to my dad, and it made me very happy. Now I am living with my husband. I put my dad through a lot of hardships, and I received a lot of love from him. That's why from now on, I want to help him. So Dad, please stay healthy and happy.
On my day off, I went to a family restaurant chain. It's pretty crowded in here. The restaurant was busy, and there were a couple of customers in line. I waited for 5 minutes.
Hi, how are you today? Please take the table over there.
The staff showed me to my table. What shall I eat today? Oh, today's lunch special looks delicious. I wanted to order the lunch special hamburger steak set, so I called the waiter. Then, what seems to be the indolent waiter came. I would like today's lunch special, please. Then, without even checking my order, nor a simple nod, the waiter hurriedly went away. What a behavior towards the customer. Well, I guess I sort of understand since the restaurant is busy. I got a bit irritated, but because of the situation, I didn't think much about it. While waiting for my food to arrive, I read the magazine I just bought to pass the time. But even after 15 minutes, then 30 minutes passed, my food didn't arrive. Oh, I'm so hungry. Is my food here yet? I looked around the restaurant and noticed something. Huh? Didn't those people come after me? Why are they being served first? Is there some kind of mistake? So, I called the waiter who took my order. Excuse me. Then the waiter came with an expressionless face, said,
Please wait a minute.
But he didn't come back. The restaurant must be partitioned since only the same waiter comes. Excuse me, I said, but...
I said wait!
He said with a strong tone of voice. What kind of behavior is that? Okay then, if you want me to wait, then I'll wait. I'll decide to wait however long it takes for my food to be served. The people around me finished eating, and new customers came. An hour passed. An hour and a half passed, but my food did not come. Then, when lunch rush was over around 2 p.m., someone who wasn't there earlier arrived. He looks like a manager. He and the waiters talked and while occasionally glancing at me. Then the manager came up.
Excuse me, have you placed your order already? Or have you already finished eating?
The family restaurant chain serves hot tea after a meal. Right now, there is only water on my table. That's probably why he asked me. I've already placed my order. It's been about 2 hours already, I said in a normal tone.
What? 2 hours? Really?
Upon hearing those words, the manager gasped. In most family restaurant chains like this, serving time is strictly enforced. But when I told him 2 hours, of course he was shocked. Honestly, I was having doubts whether the waiter passed my order. Yes, I've asked several times if my order was ready yet, but the waiter got angry and yelled at me, so I waited. The manager turned pale.
I'm very sorry for that.
Then he brought the waiter who took my order.
Look, apologize to her too.
The scary waiter turned into the scared waiter.
I'm very sorry.
It's impossible that this waiter resents me for something I did, since it's our first time ever meeting each other. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. No, it's fine. I just wanted to eat today's lunch special. Can you please serve it to me? Then the manager and the waiter went to the restaurant kitchen. I heard faint sounds of fighting. Then 5 minutes later...
We are truly sorry. Today's special lunch's ingredients are out of stock.
That's odd. I saw the customers who ordered after me eating it deliciously. I asked several times if my food was cooked yet. So, what do you mean when you say that I can't have it because you don't have ingredients?
We're sorry. How about something else from the menu?
I want to eat today's lunch special. This is a chain restaurant, isn't it? How about you go to other chains and get ingredients from there? So the manager called the other chains and asked if there were ingredients. Then he came back.
I found the ingredients, but it's far from here, so it'll take time to arrive.
I don't care. Just serve me today's lunch special.
I understand. We'll make arrangements right away.
Then he went to the back and said to the waiter,
I ordered the ingredients, so go get them. What? My shift for today is done. Besides, I have plans after this. No. Whose fault do you think this is? Hurry up and go. Yes, sir.
The waiter hurried up and went. While waiting, I read the magazine and played games on my phone to pass the time. Apologetically, the manager came and...
While you're waiting for your order, please help yourself with these.
He brought some drinks and some fries. I was hungry, so I accepted the offer. Then, 4.5 hours passed since I ordered, and my food finally arrived. The waiter looked tired and said,
I'm terribly sorry to keep you waiting.
Honestly, the wait was worth it, and it was the best lunch special I had. Yummy! After finishing my meal, I went to the cashier to pay, but...
Your meal for today is on the house. We deeply apologize.
No, it's fine. I even had free drinks and fries. I think I might have went a bit too far as well. So I'll pay for the lunch special, I said and paid. 2 months later, I went to the same family restaurant. As expected, the waiter wasn't here today. Today's special lunch, please. While I was waiting for my order, the manager came out and headed towards me.
We are very sorry for the previous incident.
No, it's fine. That waiter isn't here anymore, is he?
I fired that waiter after that day. We deeply apologize for any inconvenience caused.
Well, the waiter was very rude, so I wasn't surprised that he got fired. After that, I heard the staff talking about that incident. It seemed like the waiter had a different part-time job after that, so hurriedly went and forgot his phone. Because of that, he was absent at his other job without notice, so he was fired there too. If he forgot about my order because he was busy, it would have been forgivable. But that waiter was clearly harassing me. It's a pity he got fired from 2 jobs on the same day. But he suffered the consequences of his own actions.
Half a year ago, I married Matthew. At the time, I was heading the team of the company I was working for and couldn't move immediately. So we lived separately despite being married. But starting today, I am going to live at my in-laws' house. I was hoping to live a happy life with my husband at the farm. Hey, the bus is arriving soon.
Okay. Tell me when it arrives.
Huh? That was cold. He used to be so kind before we got married. We've only been 6 months apart and he's already treating me coldly. It's saddening. At the time, I didn't realize that that was the start. My husband fetched me at the bus stop, but we had zero conversation in the car. I miss you so much. What have you been up to lately?
Nothing interesting. Just work.
He replied coldly. Then, when we arrived, long time no see, mother. Whatever. No need for greetings. Just go start cleaning. Huh?
Wait, Mom. Let her rest for today.
Hearing Matthew say that reminded me of his kindness when we were dating, but then...
Since she'll have no time to rest tomorrow...
Okay, I'll let you rest for today. I'll go buy groceries, she said and went. When I was alone with Matthew...
Hurry up and out your things inside.
Where should I put them?
Your room is a loft upstairs. We're using it as an attic, but there's some space to sleep.
Huh? An attic? Aren't we going to sleep together? We're married!
The attic is enough for you. Hurry up and bring your things inside. Eat, and get some sleep. You'll start tomorrow morning.
Wait, I wasn't informed that I start early.
You married a farmer. It's expected.
You did say that I'll be helping with farm work, but you said that it's just for assistance. You said that I would mainly be doing household chores.
Shut up! Don't complain. If you complain that much, there's no food for you.
I was stunned with my husband's words. When we were dating, he was so kind to me. He told me that they have a farm and that we will be living together there after marriage. We wanted children, so I thought I will only be doing a bit of farm work. My long-awaited married life was shattered with his sudden change of attitude. The next day, my husband woke me up as he said he would.
Hey, until when do you plan to sleep? Hurry and wake up!
Wait! The attic is so dusty and the bedding is so thin that I couldn't sleep!
Stop complaining! Hurry up and work!
My husband and mother-in-law forced me to work.
What are you doing? I told you that's not how it's done!
Your wife is so useless. Hurry up and do your work. It's normal I don't know how to do it as I don't have any experience with farm work. But they just kept on scolding me without teaching me how it's done. Then after working early in the morning, Matthew and I will have breakfast, so come after cleaning this up, I was told. So I cleaned up and put away the heavy equipment. Then, when I finally went inside, oh, how lousy. No food for you since you were so slow. But, you told me to clean up. Are you blaming me for your slow work? No, but I'm very hungry.
If you want to eat, you need to learn to work fast.
My husband said, and that made me feel hopeless. And we'll start farm work later, so clean this room and wash the dishes and clothes, said my mother-in-law. And that's when I started regretting marrying Matthew. I think they only wanted someone who can work as a slave for them. But it's too late. My husband has a car, but the keys are always with him. And the bus stop is several miles away. Even if I want to, I couldn't escape. And so, the hellish days began. I worked the whole day without eating. I became thinner, and my body started deteriorating. I wanted children, but my period stopped. And my husband said,
I don't feel like sleeping with a scrawny woman.
I'll probably be a slave here forever and pass away. I was so hopeless that I didn't even try to rebel. One day,
Matthew's friend came to visit him from afar, finished up the farm work, and went to play. With the short break, I went to the attic and rested. Then my mother-in-law called me. "Hey, bring this!" When I went downstairs, I was told to go to the post located an hour away by foot. By foot? Won't tomorrow be fine? No, you didn't work that much today, so hurry up and go. I was forced to go and had no choice but to walk one step at a time. Then I finally arrived at the post, and when I sent the letter, I saw a diner. A delicious smell wafted through the air, inviting me. I was starving as I didn't eat anything for days, so I went inside. Then...
Welcome.
I'm sorry. I started to leave.
It's fine. There are no other customers.
No, I don't have any money with me.
I was just about to eat, so please, let's eat together.
She said. I wasn't able to decline her offer as I was starving. Then, she brought different kinds of dishes. I ate what she offered, and tears of joy flowed as it was very delicious. Then, she asked me about what happened, so I told her.
Please, use my phone and call your parents.
So I called my parents. When I heard my mother's voice, I cried.
Mom! Amelia, is that you? We've been trying to contact you. Dad, it's Amelia!
What? Amelia?
It seems like my parents were worried because they didn't hear from me. My phone was taken away, so I wasn't able to contact them. My parents came to fetch me that day, even though it was quite far. When we saw each other, we embraced and cried, then said thank you to the staff and went home. The next morning, I woke up to a delicious smell. My mom cooked my favorite dishes. I finally am out of that hellish world. Several days later, when my body felt rested, we struck back. I went to the hospital and asked for a medical certificate. Together with my journal as evidence, we hired a lawyer for divorce and reparation. I have my evidence and the testimony from the staff, so my husband and his mother had no choice but to sign the papers and pay for the reparations. By the way, they live in a small town, so news travel fast. There were people who witnessed how I was treated badly.
They are evil to treat her like that!
Rumors say that they lost partnerships with other businesses, went bankrupt, and left with a huge amount of debt. As for me, my body recovered and healthy as ever thanks to my parents. Then, I became good friends with that female staff because of that incident.
My company is a bit shady, and I've been working here for several years nonetheless. I'm a full-time employee, but my pay is in the single digits. The company I work for isn't very big, but apparently it is a family-run business. All the execs are relatives. Not to criticize family-run businesses, but they would list their own home as company-owned, or the car as a company car. Anything goes, it seems. They also go on this employee trip every year, but the lower-ranked staff has never been on these trips. Apparently, the CEO and all the execs go on the overseas excursions. Of course, when they are off on these excursions, we, the lower-ranked staff, work our asses off. When they return from these trips all tanned and healthy looking, all we hear is they're going on about the good times they had. It's excruciating. Our pay was so low that we met with the boss and demanded a raise, but he just keeps repeating that the business is not doing well. But to us, it just doesn't seem that way. We worked hard but only received meager one-digit salaries. He does not allow us to do outside work because it would prevent us from doing overtime. That's why I get my phone turned off or the electricity stopped at home. The execs get to live in the company-owned apartment. For us less fortunate, we have none of that. The rank and file must pay rent, utilities, meals, the whole shebang out of our meager salaries. As usual, I approached the exec and again demanded that our pay is increased. The CEO of the company overheard our conversation and I got called into the office.
Hey, I heard you talking out there. You sure we're making a ruckus about your pay? You're not even contributing to the company all that much. You're being a bit too audacious.
But just making a living is super hard on the salary. Also, I'm doing a lot of overtime. Despite your claim, I'm more than doing my part.
How could you say that? If you're so dissatisfied, just up and quit, why don't you? If you do quit, we're gonna charge for all the training we provided. You got that?
What?
And if you go to the labor department to complain, well, we got the best lawyers to deal with that kind of thing. How can a doit poor employee like you defy that?
Upon hearing this from the CEO, I was utterly devastated. I can't quit. I can't complain to the authorities. Is staying and working quietly at this company my only choice? Dejected, I arrived home. In the mailbox was a stack of bills. On the following day, I head to the ward office to get some advice on what my choices were. As soon as I entered, a poster advertising household welfare benefits. I approached the clerk with some trepidation and decided to ask for some much needed advice. Excuse me, I want to apply for household welfare benefits. Please forgive me, but are you currently employed? Yes, I am. I work at a company. Sorry to say this, but if you are unemployed, you are not eligible for benefits. But I'm really financially troubled. I have no one to turn to or ask for help. I don't know how I'll survive. Maybe it was because of the desperation in my face. She took pity on me. She took me to a separate office and served me some hot tea. Please drink up. It will calm you down. Thank you so much. You got a proper job, right? Is it a part-time job? No, I'm a full-time employee, but my salary is just so low. Yeah, well, all the companies are not really doing all that well. But I work as a full-timer and even do overtime, and I only get a one-digit salary. It seems so unfair. I can't make a living. What did you just say? She asked me again what I meant, thinking that she had misheard. She was flabbergasted on learning that she had not heard wrong. Then, she sat and heard out the rest of my story. Because I was headed to the water department to explain things, I had brought along all my papers such as pay slips and other bills. I placed all these documents on the desk. With a severe expression on her face, she said, "No matter how you slice it, this is just not right. Have you talked with the labor department?" He threatened me, saying, "You know what will happen if you talk to them." Okay, I'm going to take the matter up with the labor department, but I won't bring up your name. Would that be okay with you? I just wanted to get out of the situation no matter what. The woman who had helped me out also accompanied me to the water department and explained the situation to them. I was asked to pay 1 month of the back bills and avoided having my water turned off. She also informed me of the legal department that handles matters regarding people having financial difficulties. And also, make sure to take better care of yourself from now on. With those kind words, tears started to roll down my cheeks. I talked with the lawyer and continued working at the office and went about my daily routine. One day, I went to the office to see the place a flurry of activity, with staffers scrambling about. The manager seemed desperate, especially the boss.
What? Why? Darn it!
He scrambled about hiding various documents. I approached a coworker to ask about the situation. What's up?
Looks like the labor department is doing a search. This is definitely the end for them.
With that, I was sure the labor department finally decided to make its move. While the labor department was conducting its investigation, I pressed charges against the company for labor violation and back pay. When I talked with that lawyer, he told me always carry around a voice recorder. I recorded all the verbally abusive that the CEO spewed. Because I criticized the company's pay, from then on, he would always use abusive language towards me, so thanks to him, I got plenty of material. My coworker approached me and said, I want to press charges too. So, I passed on all I learned to my coworkers. I wasn't the only one suffering from the company's meager salary. With all the coworkers pressed charges against him, in addition to having the labor department on his back, he was about to burst. Every day, the CEO was enraged, but eventually, the company's stocks started to decline. Because they had all reaped the benefits of the company assets, they at first denied that they had any part in it. I don't know anything about this. I've got nothing to do with it. But they knew how the company operated, and in the end, they were charged with various crimes. The CEO's criminal behavior was taken up by the media. All the photos and videos of their lavish overseas trips were seen throughout the media. Even the meager salary of the low-ranking coworkers was splashed across all media. He received enormous backlash as a result. On top of that, it was discovered that he had been embezzling funds from the company and was subsequently arrested. When all was said and done, the company went belly up. He shaved all the employees' salaries equally. It was not only me he threatened, the others were also intimidated in the same way. It looks as though he is going to jail for sure. Also, the relatives who were enjoying the embezzled funds were subsequently fired or are currently being sued. In any case, all their faces were prominently displayed in the media. The entire world was against them, and landing a new job will probably be extremely difficult. But they have themselves to blame for their dire consequences. But under the current economic conditions, it's quite difficult to land a new job. I was working quite hard under these circumstances, but with the help of my lawyer, I was able to get a financial settlement regarding my back pay, so everything turned out for the better. All my other coworkers who received support are now gradually getting their life back to something like normal. With the influx of cash, I was able to kickstart my career and land a job at a new company. I landed a job at a company with outstanding benefits. My salary was so low before, but now it has jumped considerably. Because my salary was higher than expected. Did you make a mistake? Please, you work so hard here. It would be such a shame to make an error on your salary. No mistakes, I can assure you. Wow, I didn't realize I could get so much. I was momentarily taken aback by this fact. What kind of workplace were you at before? It really made me think that working hard and earning a decent salary could be so rewarding. But the boss, it was not only myself that suffered under his tyranny, the other coworkers also endured considerable anguish, for sure. He ruthlessly castigated his employees like some tin pot dictator, and then he and the other execs enjoyed the fruits of our labor. They will pay dearly for their selfish and ruthless treatment of us, I can guarantee that.
I've been living with my mother-in-law since I got married last year. I wasn't entirely happy about the idea of living with her, but my husband said,
My dad passed away 3 years ago, and my mom's getting old. I think it's better that we live with her. Plus, we don't have to pay rent.
Even though I was against the idea, we ended up living together. I hate living with my mother-in-law because she's very traditional, but in a bad way. Yasmin, what do you mean you're not going to work? You're married and you're a wife now, aren't you? Normally the wife stays home and the husband goes out to make money, right? Sure, but we're thinking of having kids. One day we want to build our own house too. What do you mean exactly? You guys are going to move out of my house? No, I'm talking about the future. It's only been a year since we became a dual-earning family, and we still haven't saved up that much money yet. I wasn't implying that at all. Another day, why is my son doing the dishes? Shouldn't the wife be doing all the housework? Never have I ever let my husband help with any housework. We both have jobs, so it's natural for us to share the housework and help each other. I know you're working, but my son earns more than you. It's absurd that you make my son help around the house. Actually... What now? My mother-in-law didn't know that I make much more than my husband. My husband, who had just finished doing the laundry, came and said,
What's going on here?
It's unbelievable. Yasmin was being mean to me. She was mocking me for being a full-time housewife.
Yasmin, my mom's getting old. Can you be more gentle with words when you talk to her? What you said was kind of cruel, don't you think?
What? Son, it's a pity you married a woman like this. My husband had my back for the first 6 months after we moved in. Recently, he started to defend his mother all the time, which made me very uncomfortable. I was so disappointed, wondering how long the situation would last. One day, my company implemented a work-from-home policy for all the employees due to the pandemic. In other words, I had to start staying at home with my mother-in-law all the time, even during the day. What a nightmare. I had a feeling that being with my mother-in-law 24 hours a day would be chaotic and stressful. My prediction was spot on. I explained the work-from-home situation to my mother-in-law because it was new to her. I hid in my room upstairs when I was working. My job was to provide training for new employees, so I had a lot of Zoom meetings. Working overtime was normal for me as well. A week later, my mother-in-law barged into my room while I was working and started to yell at me. Hey, you said you're working. The only thing I hear is you talking to guys on your laptop. What? I'm working right now. Can we talk about this later? My colleagues can hear you. You call this work? I heard you chatting with a younger man from the end of the hallway. Your voice, that seductive tone, is disgusting. Hey, my colleagues can really hear you, so can you stop yelling nonsense? Your husband is working hard outside, and you're at home having an affair? You didn't even do any housework. What kind of a wife are you? Suddenly, she threw a bucket of water at me. Then she grabbed my laptop, threw it to the floor, and stomped on it. I heard cracking sounds from the laptop. She didn't stop until it was completely destroyed. Hey, what do you think you're doing? That's my company laptop. It's your fault, bitch. What do you mean? I was talking with my colleague. I don't believe you. Do you take me for a fool because I'm old? Don't underestimate me. My son was doing the same thing the other day, talking to this girl on the laptop. Oh. Wait, what? A girl? What was he doing with a girl? I think he was saying something about a video meeting with his boss. That's strange. He works at a factory, and he would never have video meetings, so who was he talking with? It's been a while. I forgot exactly who. But you were flirting with a guy just now for sure. It was a video meeting. Do you want to see proof from my company? That's not going to help anything. I have enough evidence of your affair, and I'll tell my son. I was dumbfounded by my mother-in-law's idea that having a video meeting equals having an affair. When I asked my mother-in-law who the girl was, she panicked, so I wondered whether my husband was actually having an affair. I hope he wasn't, but straight to the chase, my guess was correct.
I'm home!
Welcome back. Your mother destroyed my laptop today.
What? I bet you did or said something to upset her, right? I'm exhausted from work, so can we not talk about this now?
Then can I ask you a question?
Sure, what?
Who were you talking to on your laptop?
How did you know I was talking with someone on my laptop?
Your mother told me.
It's nobody.
I see. It must be someone you can't even mention to me.
I didn't mean it like that. It's just a colleague. I need to discuss something about work with her.
Really? Someone like you, who sucks at technology, suddenly starts to talk about work with a colleague on the laptop. Very convincing. My husband started to freak out. He always sweats like a pig when he freaks out. I started to suspect him, so I decided to find out myself. I installed a screen recording software on his laptop and ran it overnight. He's not tech savvy, so I was confident he wouldn't even notice. After looking at the recording, I instantly discovered who he was talking to as well as their relationship. No wonder my mother-in-law was suspicious of me. My husband was having an affair with another woman using the video call function on the laptop. I hired a private investigator to collect additional evidence of my husband's affair. 1 month later, we need to talk.
Sorry, I have a scheduled video call with my colleague now.
Sarah is really young and cute, don't you think?
Huh? Is it my mom again? Did my mom say something?
No, I didn't say anything. I kept my mouth shut. It's not your mother. I installed a program on your laptop to record your screen. So, when did you and Sarah start?
I'm not having an affair!
Are you still going to deny it, even after I show you this? I showed my husband a photo of him and Sarah going into a hotel.
How did you get these photos? You followed me?
I don't have the time, you know. I hired a private investigator. A private investigator? You were having an affair too?
Oh, is that true? Then we're even.
As I said, I was in a meeting. I can ask my boss to prove it for me if you like. Actually, my boss wanted to speak to you about the broken company property, so it's perfect timing. Why do I have to speak with your boss? Don't you remember the laptop you broke? It belongs to the company. They're going to send you an invoice for the laptop, so don't forget to pay when you receive it, okay? Also, don't forget to pay spousal support after you divorce your son.
We're getting a divorce?
Of course we are. I'm sick of living with you and your mother. Oh, I almost forgot. I sent the screen recordings to your boss, too.
What did you do?
You said you were working, so I confirmed with your boss to see if it was true. Well, it was nice knowing you two. See you never. Apparently, Sarah was the daughter of my husband's boss, and she was also married. It was a double affair. Of course, my husband got fired. In order to pay spousal support to me and compensation to Sarah's husband, my husband had to take out a loan. Sarah insisted it was my husband's fault and blamed everything on him, so my mother-in-law was furious at her. My mother-in-law went to confront Sarah. She broke into their house and got arrested. Like mother, like son, both are quite troublesome. After all that drama came to an end, I was able to enjoy my work and life again. I'm very happy about my life now. I married my boyfriend from college, and we moved in with my in-laws. My mother-in-law was terrible at cooking. How bad, you might ask? It was so terrible that my husband, who was still my boyfriend at the time, cried when he had the omelet I made for the first time. He took one bite and started crying tears of joy for its tastiness. He said he had never dreamt of having delicious omelets at home. All the good experiences in the past were from restaurants or store-bought frozen food. But because I've never heard any of my friends complain about their parents' cooking, and my husband's reaction at the time was a little hilarious, I thought he was exaggerating. The day I met my in-laws, I finally experienced firsthand my mother-in-law's cooking. There was a stew with no fish in it, but smelled fishy, a stir-fry with suspicious seasoning that was somewhat sweet and spicy with a hint of sourness. The dinner was so awful that I couldn't help but scream in my heart. He was right, this is very bad indeed. Because my mother-in-law was being very kind to me at the time, I didn't say anything about the food. After I started to live with my mother-in-law, her attitude changed 180 degrees. I wondered where her nice personality went. She kept telling me things like, season the food this way, and prepare the ingredient like this. The way she cooks food was self-taught. The more I looked at it, the more I understood why her cooking was so terrible. Even when I tried to use cookie cutters to cut carrots into different shapes, she would say, "Don't be lazy, use a knife." She kept on roasting my cooking, but every time she ate my food, she would then say, "Not too bad." Even she didn't realize that it had become her routine to complain as much as she could, and then stuff her face with the food I made. My husband and father-in-law defended me at first, but soon they decided it was funnier to see my mother-in-law's reactions when I had different opinions on cooking. They started to agitate her intentionally by saying,
I want to have Yannet stew tomorrow. Yeah, stew sounds great to me.
That wasn't funny at all to my mother-in-law. But she didn't realize that she didn't even have a chance to cook because she was too busy complaining about my cooking. I asked my father-in-law if he ever thought something was wrong with my mother-in-law's cooking. He had been eating her food for a long time after all. He said he didn't bother to say anything because her food came out the same way every time. That's why he had been eating the same terrible food for all these years without complaining. I felt a little sorry for him. I also understand why my husband cried when he tried my food for the first time. I started making a variety of delicious dishes. My father-in-law was happy to have great food at home. Before his 60th birthday, he discovered his new favorite food, Tom Yum soup and salad rolls. One day, my mother-in-law was cooking. I tried a little and I was shocked. Whoa, why is it so sour? What's in it? My mother-in-law replied, "It's vinegar. Don't you know vinegar is good for your health?" And she showed me an empty vinegar bottle. My mother-in-law bought the vinegar earlier that day, but it was all used in one dish. No wonder the food was super sour. That's not all. She always puts too much sugar in the food and almost never properly washes and cleans the ingredients before cooking. Vinegar is indeed healthy, but it seems like she had no idea how to balance flavor elements. Also, my mother-in-law never prepares meat with salt and pepper or cleans out sand out of the clams. So whenever she buys animal organs or fish with a strong smell, such as mackerel, there would be a lingering stench at the dinner table that day. Everything is fully cooked, but everything tastes plain awful. Another day, I bought a fresh mackerel to make simmered fish. I went through all the basic preparation steps, cleaned the guts, and got rid of the smell. After trying the finished dish, my mother-in-law suspected it was ready-made from a store or a restaurant. So I showed her the raw fish packaging. All she could only say was, "Oh, so you did make this." Then she became quiet. Both my husband and father-in-law were surprised that a simmered mackerel could be so tasty and free of any fishy smell. Usually, my mother-in-law would probably just dump the chopped fish into the pan and add some sauce. My husband and father-in-law praised my simmered mackerel. My father-in-law went overboard and said to my mother-in-law,
"Why don't you learn how to cook from Janet?"
She got infuriated. Later, my mother-in-law complained to my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law came unannounced and started yelling at me.
How dare you bully my mom? I heard she's upset because of you.
Despite how shocked I was, I tried to explain everything to her, but she didn't want to listen to me at all.
I learned cooking from my mom and I don't think it's bad at all.
She kept shouting without even listening to me. So I said, "Maybe you can make dinner for us tonight and then we'll know how good you are." I thought it was better to let the facts speak for themselves, but I didn't expect her cooking to be so shockingly bad. She made a bland soup with raw onions, some burnt grilled fish with vinegar on top, and a pasta salad soaked in vinegar and oil. My mother-in-law looked very awkward. My husband and father-in-law looked like they were about to puke, but my sister-in-law was clearly very proud of her dishes. So they said to her,
"If you think it tastes good, you should try it yourself."
You are doubting me too?
After she took a bite, she immediately ran to the bathroom while covering her mouth. Can you imagine what it feels like to bite into a burnt fish that's raw on the inside, topped with a sour vinegar sauce? Even though my sister-in-law couldn't eat her own food, she didn't stop arguing with me. My husband had to call her husband to come get her. My sister-in-law's husband arrived in no time. My husband said to him,
"Seems like life is hard for you too."
I made a sad face and replied,
"Yeah, it is."
At the same time, my sister-in-law didn't stop defending herself.
No, that's not what I wanted to make.
So my husband asked if I could make the same dishes for everyone, including my sister-in-law and her husband. After I served the dishes, my sister-in-law's husband cried tears of joy, just like my husband once did. He said,
"So good! How could this be so good?"
My sister-in-law also seemed to like the dishes, but she still insisted she wasn't wrong.
I can make this too.
Her husband said to her,
"To be honest, you really shouldn't compare these dishes to yours."
She couldn't say anything, so she just left with an angry look. I didn't mind teaching my sister-in-law how to cook because she only learned the wrong way from her mother. But with her hostile attitude, there was no way I would do that. Thanks to this incident, my mother-in-law finally realized that her cooking was terrible. But my sister-in-law still refused to admit that her cooking was bad, even after her husband said,
"Your cooking is destructively bad. I've been forcing myself to swallow everything and not say a word to you. I can't do that anymore. Please, go to your sister-in-law and ask her to teach you how to cook."
She still didn't cave in. My mother-in-law started to urge my sister-in-law to improve her cooking skills. I often heard her saying to my sister-in-law on the phone, "I feel bad for your husband. Hurry and ask your sister-in-law nicely to teach you how to cook." My mother-in-law, who used to complain about my cooking, is now learning from me. If my preferred way is different from hers, she would say, "Shouldn't you do this instead of?" And my husband and father-in-law would always remind her,
Why don't you just listen to her? There's a lot you need to learn.
Then my mother-in-law would stop questioning and ask me to teach her more. Also, she started to brag to the neighbors. "My daughter-in-law is a genius cook." I'm amazed by how drastically her attitude changed compared to when I first moved in. I'm not a genius cook, by the way. I don't design new dishes or make my own recipes. I have to constantly look at the recipe book when I'm trying to make something new. If I'm feeling lazy, I'll serve ready-made food too. But because my mother-in-law bragged about me to her neighbors, the neighbors would say to me, "Oh, hello, genius home cook. I heard a lot about you from your mother-in-law." My mother-in-law's bragging somehow raised the bar, so I had to adjust accordingly. My husband is now always telling me how happy he is to have married me. My father-in-law also says he's grateful that I moved into their home. Now he can have delicious meals every day. My mother-in-law was mean to me at first, but now she's trying her best to learn cooking from me. Oh well, I'm glad everything finally worked out.
2 years ago, I quit my job and moved with my husband to his parents' home in the countryside. My husband's parents own a farm. As they got old, my husband decided to quit his job to take care of them and the farm. That's why we moved in with his parents. My husband and father-in-law were very kind to me before we moved in, and they didn't change afterwards. My mother-in-law was the only one who had a completely different attitude towards me. As soon as I moved in, she started to say things like, "My son is the eldest, so you'll take care of me when I'm old, right? Also, I expect a healthy grandson soon." She started to force me to do more housework, so I was busy working around the house and exhausted every day. During that time, I became pregnant. My mother-in-law suddenly became upset when she found out that I was going to have a baby girl. She said, "I've told you so many times, you have to have a boy. Go get an abortion now." I was furious at what she said and replied, "It's a life. I won't get an abortion no matter what you think. Who do you think you're talking to?" I just ignored her. After that, she started picking on every little thing and complained more about me. I was afraid my baby would be the next target if I continued to go against my mother-in-law, so I obeyed and stopped talking back. Usually, my mother-in-law sleeps until noon, but she woke up early in the morning one day. "Kendra, let's go to church to pray for the baby." "Oh, now? Is there a problem?" "The news said there's a record-breaking heat wave today. It's going to be dangerous for you to go out too. Can we go on another day?" "Why are you treating me like I'm old? I just want to pray for your safe delivery. Don't worry, I'll drive." She's been asking me to clean high places and organize the storage at home in hopes that I'd have a miscarriage. So, I couldn't help but wondering what her intentions were this time. But there was no arguing with her. Maybe she changed her mind since my estimated due date was near. So I got in the car without any further questions. We were driving on the mountain's roads before we reached a small road that was too narrow for the car. She said, "Go straight down this road and you'll see the church." Then she stopped the car at a small road and said, "I'll park the car at the parking lot down there. You can get off here and wait for me." After I got off the car, she said, "Oh, I just remembered. I have something to do." And she turned the car and drove away. What? Is she serious? Damn it, her plan was to leave me here in the middle of a heat wave. I didn't expect she'd go this far. In despair, I decided to head to the church. I heard it's a famous local church. There must be someone who can help me find a way home if I tell him about my situation. I walked down a small narrow road and saw a small run-down church amidst the tall grass. She lied about the church too. There was no sign of anyone coming in this direction. My mother-in-law was also nowhere to be found. I didn't have any water with me. I became dizzy because of the heat and my heavy pregnant belly. I was sweating like crazy trying to move forward step by step. All I could think of was, I might die here if I didn't make it home somehow. However, I lost consciousness. Right after, I came out of the forest. I woke up in the hospital and saw my husband crying beside me. Then I felt something was wrong with my stomach.
The baby is gone.
Maybe I was still under anesthesia. My head was in a daze.
My mum said you got lost in the woods on your way to the church. Why did you have to go to the church on such a hot day?
What? Then I heard my in-laws talking somewhere behind my husband. I shouldn't have indulged in her selfishness and driven her out. I wish I could have found her sooner. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. My mother-in-law pretended to cry as she spoke. I wanted to yell, "That's not true!" But then I touched my flat belly and realized, nothing I say will bring back my baby. At that moment, I started crying profusely and couldn't say a word. After I left the hospital, I had no appetite and couldn't think about anything. I also had no strength to tell the truth. My husband and father-in-law were worried about me while my mother-in-law was excited and lively. Pregnant woman can be unstable, so she might suddenly say something strange. We should leave her alone. She made it sound like she had no bad intentions, but was only concerned for me. After I heard their conversation, I decided to take revenge on my mother-in-law even though it ended in divorce. The following morning, after I sent my husband and father-in-law off, I wrapped my mother-in-law with duct tape. She usually never wakes up until the late afternoon, no matter how loud I am, but she seemed to sense something strange this time, so she woke up. What's this? I'm practicing for the next time I have a baby. I'll tell my son and husband. Please, go ahead. They already agreed on everything. What are you talking about? I lied about them agreeing to what I was doing. I called my husband at work and made a declaration about my revenge. My husband was panicking over the phone and said,
I'll be home soon. Just calm down.
I said to my mother-in-law, Look, I made some delicious baby food. Open your mouth and let me feed you some. Then I took a spoonful of freshly made hot porridge and poured it down her throat. Oh, it's hot. It burns. She struggled like a caterpillar and spat out the porridge. Oh, what's the matter? You can't grow if you're a picky eater. I scooped more porridge into her mouth and she kept struggling while spitting out the porridge. In the end, she was covered in porridge. Oh no, you got it all over yourself. Mommy will give you a bath now. I dragged my caterpillar-like mother-in-law to the bathroom and threw her in the tub. Oh, so hot. Let me out. Of course, I made sure the water temperature was hot enough to make her suffer, but not enough to leave her a burn. The water level was low enough to keep her from drowning, but the fear of being tied up made her struggle with her eyes wide open. I pushed her shoulders down and said, Did you know? Your older sister experienced this kind of heat inside my belly too. Your grandma will probably do the same thing again if she finds out you're a girl. So let's get used to the heat so you won't be surprised, okay? Somebody help me! It's so hot! So, what do you think? Nobody can get used to this, don't you think? As I said that, I fell to my knees and started crying. When my husband and father-in-law came home and heard her screams, they came up running to the bathroom.
What are you doing?
My husband and father-in-law dragged her out of the tub. I watched coldly as they removed the duct tape on her. This woman is crazy! She tried to kill me! I just wanted you to experience how hot and painful the baby was that day inside my belly. Stop! You're exaggerating! It was just a baby! You should have died in the woods too! Was it why you left me in the woods under the scorching sun? My mother-in-law was so angry and wouldn't stop talking. What? It was just a small punishment for you. It wasn't my fault your baby was not strong enough to survive. Aren't you glad I saved you the trouble of getting rid of it? After hearing this, my husband slapped my mother-in-law and asked,
What the hell did you do?
I stared at the floor and told them everything that happened that day calmly. My husband slapped my mother-in-law again after hearing what I said.
Get out!
He shouted at her angrily while crying. I was just joking. You're not kicking me out because of this, are you?
You already took a life! What do you mean by just joking? Stop bullshitting me and get out now! I wish you were gone instead of the baby!
My mother-in-law was shocked by what my husband said, but my father-in-law seemed to agree with him. After learning the truth, my father-in-law divorced my mother-in-law. Not only did she not get any property or money, but she also got kicked out of her house pennilessly. I was prepared for a divorce before I carried out my revenge, but to my surprise, my husband and father-in-law apologized and told me they'd make it up to me for the rest of their lives if I wanted to stay married. So we decided to start over. I couldn't bring back my baby even though I had my revenge, but after my mother-in-law got the punishment she deserved, I wanted to look forward and live a happy life for the baby. I was grateful that my husband and father-in-law believed in me after seeing my reckless revenge.
When I was in elementary school, I almost died due to allergies. My parents moved to a new city, and I had to attend a new school. I have an allergy to milk, so I was very careful about food and drinks myself, as well as my parents. On my first day at my new school, my mother said to me,
I have told the teacher at school that you are allergic to milk, so don't ever drink it. Do you understand?
Yes, I do. When I drink milk, my allergy causes a strong rash and breathing difficulties. My parents were very concerned because I was going to a new school. The school cafeteria always served milk with their meals, but since I couldn't drink milk, I had to get permission from the school to bring my own special tea. Although I was afraid of allergies, I'd been dealing with them for a long time, and I took care of myself well. So I headed to school with a positive attitude. When I arrived at the school, my homeroom teacher greeted me.
You must be Michael. I'm glad to meet you today.
My teacher was a plump, middle-aged woman. Pleased to meet you, I greeted her politely. Because of her plumpness, the teacher seemed very kind with a nice smile. Then I went to the classroom with the teacher and introduced myself in front of the rest of my classmates. The students looked at me with interest, as if a new student was a rarity. During recess, everyone asked me,
Where are you from?
and, "Where's your home?" So I was able to quickly get to know them. After taking classes with my classmates and spending recess together, it was soon time for lunch. The other students told me many things about the school's lunch program. After the meal, when I prepared my special tea on the table, which I brought by myself instead of milk given by the school, my friend started talking to me. He said, "Huh? Why don't you drink the milk the school gives you?" Actually, as I was about to speak, the smiling teacher interrupted our conversation with a milk package in one hand.
Michael, you just transferred to this school, so I don't want to tell you too much. But don't be picky about food, okay?
She smiled and put a milk package in front of me. "Well, my mother told me not to drink milk. I'm allergic to milk," I answered modestly since it was my first day.
Don't worry. We all have food we like and dislike, okay?
It's not that I don't like milk. I'm allergic to it. I was still in elementary school at the time, so I didn't want to talk back to my older teachers. And besides, I couldn't think of a good way to make them understand that I was allergic.
I had some foods I didn't like, but I made an effort to eat them. So why don't you make an effort too?
"But if you are allergic, you should never eat or drink it," the teacher said.
Well, your parents are spoiling you. That's not good. I'm going to train you to drink.
The teacher returned to her seat, smiling, and began to eat her school lunch. I ate my school lunch too, but did not open or drink any milk, of course. After that, the children who had finished their lunch earlier began to get up from the table. The teacher returned just as I was finishing my lunch.
There you go. All you have left is milk. Drink it quickly.
But when I told her that I was allergic, she looked very angry for a moment and then immediately went back to her smiling face.
I have no choice.
The teacher said, while moving my table to the corner of the classroom.
Your lunch hour isn't over until you've drank all your milk, okay?
But when I looked at the others, I saw that some of the students had left some of their lunch, so I said, "But some of them aren't finished."
It's good that those kids are trying their best to eat at least half of it.
The teacher said so, but I don't know what would happen if I drink even half of the milk. It was such a dangerous act, I still didn't drink, and eventually the teacher left, and I was sitting alone in the corner, even though I had just transferred to a new school. Other students came to check on me, but not understanding scary things about allergies, they said, "I see," and went off to play somewhere else. I guess they couldn't tell me not to drink, because students have to follow what the teacher says. Then, when it was time for class to start again, the teacher came back to me. The teacher replied,
Oh no. Why are you so stubborn? How do your parents usually discipline you?
and she looked down at me, but I told her, "But I can't drink milk! If I did, I would be in big trouble!" In fact, I knew exactly what would happen if I drank milk. Several times I had developed a rash and breathing difficulties after drinking milk. So no matter what the teacher said, I knew I couldn't drink it. The teacher was already irritated and said,
Why don't you just try one sip of milk? It's delicious and full of nutrients.
taking the liberty of inserting a straw into a package of milk and holding it in front of my mouth. I said, "Teacher, I can't do it! I can't drink it!" At that time, I was so afraid of her face. She had been smiling when I first met her, but now she looked like she was wearing a devil's mask. Then the teacher put her hand on my cheek and forced me to open my mouth. After that, she stuck the straw in my mouth and said,
Here, drink. Drink it!
I was so scared of the teacher and the straw in my mouth that I reflexively drank the milk. I coughed as I spit the milk out of my mouth.
This is what happens when you don't drink your milk.
I heard the cold voice of the teacher say, and everyone in the classroom began to make a fuss. And the teacher said,
Hey, what's that rash?
And started backing away from my face and body. My face was swollen. I had a rash, and I was having trouble breathing. Oh God, this is painful. Please, help me, teacher.
Oh my God.
The teacher just looked at me and panicked and did nothing to address the situation. I'll go get another teacher! I was almost unconscious when some of the students went to call for another teacher. The next time I woke up, I saw the faces of my parents sobbing in front of me.
Michael, thank God you're awake.
My father and mother both held my hand tightly. I lost consciousness after that, and I think I was carried away by an ambulance. Days later, I was released from the hospital. I told my parents I didn't want to go to school anymore because I was afraid of milk and that teacher. But that teacher hadn't come to school since the day I was taken to the emergency room. My parents had properly informed the school that I was allergic to milk. Nevertheless, everyone in the class knew that my homeroom teacher had forced me to drink milk. The PTA also investigated and found that the teacher had been harassing other students who had caught her eye, while putting on a friendly face. My milk allergy could easily become so severe that one wrong move could have resulted in a life-threatening incident. So the school immediately fired the teacher, and she was questioned in a criminal case. In any case, her teaching career was over. As my parents had informed the school in advance of my allergies, they were outraged by the incident. My parents said they would sue the school and the teacher. But my parents received a lot of compensation, and the principal and vice principal came to our house several times to apologize. So they dropped the lawsuit. I then had to go to school again. When I walked into class, all my classmates apologized to me, saying,
We're sorry that we were afraid of the teacher and couldn't help you.
Some of them were crying. Everyone was worried that I would die, and they wrote cards for me when I was in the hospital. I remember how happy I was that my classmates cooperated in writing the cards for me, even though it was right after I had transferred to the new school. After that, everyone became more careful and started checking the school lunch menu together for me. All of these friends have remained close even as adults, and when we have time, we all get together and keep in touch. Honestly, I was scared to death, but thanks to my wonderful friends, I'm glad that I changed schools.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.